What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Well, a nice win for Arkansas in Week 1 over the Western Carolina Catamounts, 56-13. We're going to take a look back at that game now that I've had a chance to rewatch the video and everything. We're going to talk to Danny West about the latest in recruiting, some of his thoughts on the game, and Andrew Ellis as well. We'll get maybe a little bit of preview on Kent State and his thoughts as well on the game. And we're going to take some of your questions also. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. All that and more on today's episode of HawgSports Live. Hey everybody, before we get started, I want to mention real quick that HawgSports is half price right now. Now, this offer is going to end very soon. Actually, it's going to end on Tuesday at 11 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So if you want to get HawgSports for half off, you're excited about the Razorback football season, there's never a better time to join than right now at the number one independent source on Arkansas sports and recruiting. Half off the regular rate. Get unmatched insider Razorback coverage just in time for the start of the 2023 football season for the equivalent of $1.03 a week, $4.48 a month, and billed at just $53.70 for the entire year. So a great offer at HawgSports.com right now. Go check us out. Part of the 24/7 Sports Network. You'd be glad you did. That's all I want to say, aside from subscribe real quick if you haven't subscribed on our YouTube channel. Where do we want to start today? Arkansas 56, Western Carolina 13. I thought it was a good environment in Little Rock overall. Now, there are some things that you run into with not having a lot of games there, obviously. I go the same route. There's one way to get to my parking area in the media parking, and they wouldn't let me through, stuff like that. They were nice about it, but we got it figured out. But I've been going the same route for 20 years. I know they ran out of water. There's those kinds of issues. And that's just the stuff you kind of run into when you play at a place where you just don't have games regularly. So I thought Arkansas came out really strong, obviously. KJ Jefferson hitting 7 different wide receivers. I don't want to repeat myself too much on just some of the stuff I noticed while watching the game, but 7 different wide receivers, 12-12 start. I think it's pretty obvious, as we talked about, in the pregame stuff. I pointed, a lot to that, like 2011 game against Missouri State, where they just blitzed Arkansas the whole time, walked the safeties up, loaded the box. And that's kind of the same stuff that you saw in this one. One reason Arkansas wasn't able to get a lot of rushing yards. Now, in my opinion, against a 1AA team, FCS, they still should be able to get a better push. And Sam Pittman addressed some of that today at the press conference, just, some of the technique stuff that they were doing that they needed to do a better job with. But you should be able to run the ball against a team, even if they're walking their safeties up. I mean, generally, they were 10 yards. The safeties were 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. Their top 3 leading tacklers were defensive backs. Compare that to Arkansas, where they were almost always like 14, 15 yards off the line of scrimmage. Arkansas safeties were almost always starting their back pedal at the beginning, whereas Western Carolina, their safeties, their first step was forward. So that just kind of gives you an idea of, sometimes you run into a team that is outmanned and they say, we're going to win something. And in this case, they're going to win trying to stop Arkansas running the ball. Now, Arkansas finished with 36 carries for 105 yards, 3 touchdowns, only a long of 17. Their longest run was 17. They had a minus 19-yard run. I think Rocket had a minus 11. The 19 was a bad snap, something that they've got to get fixed. They also had a bad snap down at the goal line. But 2.9 yards a carry, obviously nothing to write home about. I think it's notable, though, that you look at the New Mexico game that Arkansas played after that Missouri State game in 2011, and they ran for like 259 yards the next week. So they got some things corrected. But that's one reason Arkansas was able to have so much success passing the ball. One reason KJ started 12-12 is just because of the emphasis they were putting on stopping the run. You look at that throw from Jaden Wilson, for example, that on the second play of the game. The first step that the safety makes is inside and down, and that play's going outside. Great throw by KJ. I mean, hit him right here, just out in front, perfectly in stride. Great block by Isaac Teslaw, and then he went 68 yards. He was behind the line, 65-yard touchdown, but 68 yards. Great way to start the season. Defense starting out strong, too. All right. I'm not ready to go into all of that right yet, but Arkansas won 56-13. I had them 49-17. I had him 49-17, but Brad Spence ruined it with his 85-yard touchdown return on the interception. But they were going down to score, but I was close to calling it. But good to see Brad Spence make a nice play because he has been getting talked about a lot in camp and everything. This is the first meeting, so the things that we know about this game, first meeting between the two programs. According to the Bet Saracen app, Arkansas is a 38.5-point favorite. Do you like that? Do you like the betting line? Let me know in the comments below if you like the betting line. 38.5 points. I'll tell you something else I've noticed. I don't know. I'm not a great gambler, but, I look at Colorado and Nebraska, and I watched a good bit of the Colorado game, just in the press box. But Colorado and Nebraska, this game is at Boulder, and I watched all the Nebraska game the other day. Colorado started off as a 7-point dog to Nebraska. Now they're a 2.5-point favorite. I still think 2.5 points is quite low just based on what we saw from those two programs. And I think Matt Rule's a really good coach, but I think he's got some work to do still there. What else do we know about Kent State? It's in Kent, Ohio. Arkansas and Kent State have never faced each other, which is weird. It seems like they would have faced each other. MAC, a little MACtion. 1946 is when the MAC conference was developed. You've got a lot of Ohio schools there. Ohio, Akron, Bowling Green, Kent State, Miami, Ohio, Ball State, Toledo, a lot of Ohio football teams there in the MAC conference. And Arkansas obviously played some of those. Did I mention Toledo? Yeah, Toledo's there, which we remember Toledo. Brett Bielema had his hands full with Toledo over the weekend also. Came out with a close win. Okay, let's see. Do you want to hear what Sam Pittman had to say? Let's go to Sam Pittman. Do we want to do that first, or do we want to rewind things? Let's actually go. I want to talk about my friends first over at Ozarks Go. For those of you who are disappointed with your internet, you obviously don't have Ozarks Go. I've had several different carriers before, but Ozarks Go to me has obviously been the best one. I've had them for 2.5 years now, even before they reached out to me and wanted to be our title sponsor. You can reach out to them at 479-684-4900. Find out if they're available in your area. I know they're branching out all over Northwest Arkansas, getting in Rogers now. If you have Ozarks Electric, then you can get Ozarks Go. I use their Multibit internet. I used their Gigabit internet before, which is fantastic. Multibit, I do a lot of live streaming in 1080p, obviously. I have 2 screens up here. I've got a lot going on. So what I like about the Multibit is I don't even have to think about it, and it's completely instant. For most people, Gigabit's going to be a really good service for you too. Local company, when you reach out to them, you're going to talk to somebody local. If you have a problem, which you're not going to have, at least my experience, I've had uptime 100% of the time, unless one time they said, hey, we're going to have an outage here at midnight. Aside from that, I've had 100% uptime, no problem at all, never had any issue. Go visit our friends at ozarksgo.net/hawg. That's HAWG if you want to find out more if they're available in your area, or you can call them at 479-684-4900. Okay. Certainly appreciate Ozarks Go keeping this show rolling. Let's go with a Sunday Rewind. So this is the article I put out yesterday on Arkansas and Western Carolina. Just a few more observations from watching the game. I mentioned how they're loading the box and, keying on the run, keying on Rocket Sanders. I thought Sam Pittman made a good point. They knew that Arkansas wasn't really going to run KJ Jefferson much, especially in a game like this. So they just really targeted Rocket Sanders, and it worked out for them. Loaded the box with 7, 8, sometimes more than that, really just keyed on it. But again, I still felt like Arkansas should have gotten a little bit better push. Even if they're doing that, you still feel like they should get a better push. I brought up a lot of examples, obviously, that I mentioned. Missouri State was one of them where they just kind of keyed on Arkansas's running game. And, Bobby Petrino back then said he was just stubborn running the ball. It's nice to see Jaden Wilson and Jaden Johnson playing so well. Jaden Johnson had the forced fumble, kind of got lucky, put his helmet right there, but the dude, Davis, just kind of raised his arm up with the ball and, it just popped right out. He had the interception, obviously, made some nice tackles, but the play that I thought really stood out for Jaden Johnson, because it's a play I don't think he attempts last year. When Dwight McGlothern made his interception and Jaden Johnson's coming across, and there's the right guard who's 6'2", 330 pounds, and Jaden Johnson just smacks him. I mean, Jaden went this way, but the other dude went that way, just kind of like a slow, slow motion, roar, like you see a giant or something. But Jaden stuck his nose in there. I don't think he would have done that last year and made a really nice block there. I thought it was interesting with 6:45 to play in the first quarter. When I'm not even going to try to pronounce this guy's last name because it's like 13 letters long. But the Western Carolina linebacker came on what they would call a green dog blitz, a delayed blitz, and hit KJ Jefferson in the backfield. And KJ just bounced off of him, kind of an I lift weights moment. And I'm wondering a little bit if that stems from, just your psyche of – because no team in college football practicing is hitting quarterbacks. And, you just kind of hit him and expect, oh, maybe the play's over. You know what I mean? Like kind of subconscious a little bit. But KJ bounced off of him, rolled left, squared up, hit Andrew Armstrong for a 12-yard gain. I was a little disappointed in the goal line where they fumbled the ball. Now, Bo Limmer had a couple of high snaps. Pittman says he's not worried about it. But there was a couple of high snaps that they have to get right. I think he said maybe he hurt his hand a little bit, kind of a wet ball because it was so hot too. It was really hot down on the turf there. But, they had that a bad exchange at the goal line. The ball is on the ground. And in this game, it doesn't matter, but that stuff can't happen. And I know Arkansas is doing more stuff under center and things, but that stuff just can't happen. They've got to get that cleaned up, got to get the snaps cleaned up. Really glad to see Hudson Clark. The first thing I think you notice about Hudson Clark, those of you who hadn't been at practice like I have, is shoulders, arms, a lot bigger. And what I noticed, if you go look, and this is from Pro Football Focus, you had a pretty even distribution with those safeties and cornerbacks you had. Al Walcott got 41 snaps, not cornerbacks, but safeties and hog, nickel. Al Walcott had 41 snaps. Jaden Johnson had 40 snaps. Clark had 40 snaps. Lorando Johnson had 35 snaps. Okay, so I think what you're going to see – and, Pittman, I asked Pittman about this, but I think he kind of misinterpreted what I was asking a little bit. But just really, I think you're just going to see Hudson Clark kind of bouncing around at two safety spots in nickel, and just kind of a rotation there where he's basically like a starter. And, with some of the issues they had in the secondary with, injuries and, Keon Stewart getting arrested for going like 126 miles an hour. And he's back with the team, but he has got some community service and other things that he's going to have to accomplish, but he was suspended for the game Saturday, obviously. But with I think some of the issues they have in the secondary in terms of depth, I think that makes a lot of sense to kind of bounce Hudson along. He's played a lot of different positions in his career, super smart kid. So I think that makes good sense to do that with him. And Clark had a nice game on Saturday. He had that interception. The play before that, he came on like one of like two pressures I saw the whole game. Like otherwise, they're just bringing four men. They didn't, and Travis Williams is known as a guy that likes to attack on defense. But they just brought four defensive linemen. I think you saw the defensive linemen getting stronger as the game went on, where that rotation's really helping them, and they're just overwhelming them. Starting, they got the 2 sacks in the second half. I think they had eight TFLs in the game. So, but I thought Hudson played pretty well, and had that nice interception right after that play where he kind of came on that pressure, hit the back and was going after the quarterback and knocked the back, and then came and helped make that tackle in the backfield. So, and then on the next play, he drops back into a zone, reads quarterback's eyes, interception. Nice play. And I think it was T.J. Metcalf's first play of his college defensive career, at least. I'm not sure if he got in on special teams. I talked about Jaden Johnson, just the things that he did. I thought he had a really, really nice game overall. Jaheim Thomas, man, from a talent perspective, I think he might be their best linebacker. There was one play where he just like split two defenders, and this was a good matchup for Arkansas because of the amount of time they spent doing 2-on-2 slot cover, the 2-on-2 slot cover stuff, where they would 3 wide receivers, 3 defensive backs, one side of the field. They're running a bunch of bubble screens. They're working on blowing it up. Obviously it helped with Arkansas. They ran that bubble screen to Jaden Wilson, touchdown, and then blowing up the bubble screen on the other side. I think that really worked out. But Jaheim Thomas, I thought, was really explosive. Ran right through Desmond Reed on that screen pass that ended up going for no gain. 6'4", 240, good-looking linebacker. Max Fletcher, got to give some props to Max Fletcher. I don't know if I talked about him, but had punts of 51 yards, returned for no gain, 46 yards for a fair catch, 52 yards for a fair catch, and a 52-yarder with a 1-yard return that was out of the back of the end zone. His heels were in the back of the end zone, and 44 yards out of bounds at the Western Carolina 15-yard line. So he averaged 49 yards a punt with only the single return for 1 yard. You guys know how I feel about kickoff return. I've talked about all the rule changes. 2010, 2013. 2010 was moving it from the 35 to 30 to the 35 to have more touchbacks. Then they outlawed wedge blocking in 2013, and then they add the fair catch and 25-yard line. I think Isaiah Satania might just return a kickoff for a touchdown this year, but is it worth doing all that for having bad field position so many times? He had that one good return, but then they got a block on the back call, and Arkansas is at the 9, and the next thing you know, Max Fletcher's punting out of the back of the end zone. There's a block in the back on Western Carolina, too. I just think that it doesn't make a whole lot. Now, there was one return where he got to the 30. He's catching at full speed. He's got 5 or 6 blockers, who aren't even engaged yet right in front of him. Yeah, bring that out. There are certain instances, okay? It's kind of a low line drive. There are certain instances. But for the most part, you're 5 yards deep in the back of the end zone. I just don't think it's wise to bring it out, even as explosive as he is, even though I think he probably will return a kickoff for a touchdown. It's just like, to me, 95% of the time you shouldn't return them. Brady Latham should be back out there. Tyrone Broden, I thought, had a really nice impact, especially on punt team, getting down there. Dominic Johnson had a nice block right there at the goal line. They got Rocket Sanders in there. He was lined up at fullback. And I thought it was borderline poor sportsmanship by Kerwin Bell calling the timeout there. I get it. You got your kicker. He's a candidate for all conference or whatever status. But I mean, the game was over. People are tweeting the game is over. People are getting up and leaving. I mean, the stat broadcast thing shut down. They had to go back and do all the things so this guy could kick a meaningless, field goal. And it's not like people are like, "Oh man, you got smoked. You lost 56-10." Oh wait, you got a field goal at the end, 56-13. Okay. Well, that's good. You played okay. I mean, the game's over. It's meaningless. Just a waste of time. I thought Kerwin Bell did a really good job. Appreciate him doing all the stuff he did for the media in the week, but this was not good, in my opinion, to do that. It's not like unsportsmanlike or poor sportsmanship. It's just borderline annoying. Okay, Pittman talked today. I want to go to Pittman's press conference. Let's see what he had to say.
We're excited to come play at home. In front of hopefully a sold-out crowd. I've been told that it's going to be close, and play Kent State. Coach Burns has done a nice job there with his team. They play extremely hard. They do have some offensive weapons. I like their quarterback. He had transferred in from Purdue. I like their running back. I think they've got a really good kickoff returner, and their line is full of transfers. Not full, but they have 6 transfers on offense. I believe they lost their entire starting group last year on defense. They're aggressive defense. They moved more than what we saw last week. Still out of a too-high shell. I like number 5, a D tackle. Last name West. I like their 2 linebackers, very physical guys, and they got a corner returning named Miller that's a good player. So we're excited to get home. We have a high respect for Kent State and their program, but we're excited to do the hog walk in front of our fans, run through the A, and get home.
Kenny Burns was funny. He said, Sam Pittman won't remember me, but maybe you do. He was a running back at Springfield, Illinois, and you were at Northern Illinois, and y'all were recruiting him. He's a
really good player. No. You know what? Yes. I know who he is now. I don't know. That's several years ago, maybe 20 plus, maybe. But he's doing a heck of a job over there for him. He did a heck of a job where he came from, too. But I wish I did remember more, but nobody remembers me playing. I'm sure he was a lot better than I was.
He wound up in Indiana. So
yeah.
So you were in Northern Illinois and beat an SEC school, so you kind of know the motivation that MAC teams, when they get the opportunity. What are your thoughts maybe about, their motivations and coming in here?
Well, I think, each year, and I was watching College Game Day there for a minute, and they were talking about it's going to happen. MAC school's going to beat a Power 5, and then hopefully that's already happened. I think Northern Illinois won it. Beat, was it Boston College possibly? I think this last weekend, but. That MAC, that year we beat Alabama, we beat Maryland, we beat Iowa State, all in that same year. We went 10-2 and didn't get a bowl invite. That's how things have changed, so far. But here's what I'll know about them. They'll be tough. They'll play hard. They did. They played hard against UCF. UCF has a good football team and had some really good out there speed. But they'll play hard. And they'll come in here believing they can win Western Michigan, and how it was when I was at Northern Illinois, and it's just a wonderful opportunity for them. Again, this week's more about us, and between week 1 and 2, we ought to get much better. I told the coaches today, I said, let's be great at. If it wasn't great, let's be great at fixing it. Let me read this right quick. After all the spring and August emphasis correcting last year's short yardage situation flaws, how important was it for this? You could write anything down here. I feel like the anchor man. I'm getting ready to read something. I'm Ron Burgundy, but there's nothing on here, right? I'm good. It says short yardage situation flaws, how important was it for this team closing last Saturday's first half running a 4th and 1 touchdown? Well, honestly, right before I came here, I was talking to Dan about, we went for it on 4th down. What was it, 4th and 1 on about 37 or something, somewhere around in there. And then, I told him, I said, I'd just sneak it, try a sneak. And he said, they jumped, they were in bear. We bobbled the snap just a little bit. And then it was 4th down, so I just waited on the clock to go down to 3, and it was a really good feeling to score. I mean, just a really good feeling to have 2 4th downs and get it. Guys, if we don't catch, we've all been there. If we don't catch contested passes, if we don't make those 2 first, we don't make those 2 4th and 1s, we still probably win the game, but you're going, man, because everybody tries to find negative in what could be pretty positive situation. But I was really pleased with that. We made them both, and our work, at least to that point. We're not going to make them all, I get it, but we did on Saturday, and that felt good, and I think it builds confidence in the team. And it builds confidence in the team and us, because what we're doing, it's like fast starts. We changed. It's a physical part of the first part of practice. So we can start fast, and then we go out and get a 3 and out. We score in 2 plays. It just, at least it gives you a little more, the team believes in, okay, this is why we're doing it. Let's go do it. And they do it without hesitation.
All right, everybody, that's your head hog, Sam Pittman. A little longer clip than I would normally play, a little over 5 minutes, but I just thought he had some really interesting stuff to say, some funny moments, so I wanted to include those today. You can watch the whole press conference on our YouTube channel, same as YouTube as this you're watching here, but you can watch it all there. So what do we know about Kent State? We're going to get to Danny West here in just a second. We know that they lost to Central Florida 56-6 in the opener. That was a Thursday night game. I have not watched that yet. I'm going to go back and watch it. So they got a little bit of extra time to prepare for Arkansas, but they lost 56-6 to University of Central Florida. Sean Lewis was their head coach last year. He's gone to Colorado to be offensive coordinator under Deion Sanders, and now they have Kenny Burns. And as you saw there, Kenny Burns was a guy that was recruited by Sam Pittman. He doesn't remember it, but Kenny Burns remembers it, which I guess you would expect something that long ago. Okay. We're going to get to Danny West now. And we'll go into a lot more detail on Kent State. Obviously, we'll dive deep in with, breaking down their offense and defense and all the keys to victory, all those kinds of things when we do our primer on Thursday. So you want to go check out our primer when we do it on Thursday. All right, let's get to Danny West. For those of you who don't follow Danny, you can follow him at Danny West 24/7 on Twitter. He's the HawgSports recruiting analyst and does a fantastic job. Most of Danny's content is VIP, so you do need a VIP subscription, so it's a great time to sign up for our 50% off deal to read Danny's content. Danny, how you doing, man?
Doing wonderful. It's football season. We're about 11 days from the bow season opening up, so it's my time of year, bud.
That's right.
Doing pretty good.
You know, Danny, I think about when Arkansas plays a game like this is how you always talk about, like when Arkansas has struggled in the past to beat opponents like this, when you've said, why can't Arkansas just beat the hell out of these guys like everybody else?
Yeah. You know, it was. I thought it was pretty nice Saturday to actually get to enjoy one of those. Man, we can, I think we're guilty of it ourselves, Trey. But we can overanalyze games so badly. Mm-hmm. I can sit there and rewatch them. I know you've probably watched it 5 times already.
Pretty much, yes.
There's times during that game where I'm like, man, I don't like this lack of a push, But then the other half, I'm like, well, I totally get what they're doing. They know KJ's not gonna. Right. They're not trying to kill KJ today, so take that out of the run game. Now they're just going to load up and see how well KJ knows his new wide receivers. Everybody's new. That's exactly what I would do if I were them. So, it's tough to say it was a great game plan when you get beat 56-13, but I thought it was. That They took it away, and that's just smart football. They've got a couple of dudes over there too. So everybody does, man. So I wasn't too down about the run game, actually. I've kind of talked myself back into liking where Arkansas is right now, man. That's what you look for. That's what I mean when I say that. You just want to go out there and breathe easily in the second half of a game, and I think we all did. Yeah,
they didn't do anything too dramatic. I mean, I asked Pittman how many times he felt like they brought pressure. I noticed it twice. I asked, just – On offense, it was just obvious that they were coming after the run. They were going to try to win, stopping the run, and they did. And you'd like to see, every once in a while it balances out because you pop off a big one just because you got better athletes, but it just didn't happen. Yeah. Arkansas never had a big run. So, Danny, recruiting, what's the latest in recruiting right now? Obviously, not a big visit weekend and stuff because the game's in Little Rock and they can't even talk to them there. But this weekend, I think we maybe expect some more guys coming in.
We do, but first, let's talk about another guy who's capable of breaking off some big runs for Arkansas in the future. They picked up a really big one Friday, Trey.
Yeah.
Jamarian Parker, 4-star running back out of St. Louis. Now, he's for next year's class. Everybody who, may not follow recruiting as close as others, this is just a junior in high school right now, but a really good one. Cardinal Ritter High School, well-known. It's a factory,
Yeah.
And, a kid that they got on super early. I thought it was interesting to go back through his Twitter and see that Arkansas's picture was the first one he ever posted. He actually came to campus in January of 2022, so only a freshman at the time. Mm-hmm. Arkansas didn't even offer him that day. Offer didn't come until after Ole Miss had offered, but Arkansas got him on campus first. They offered after Ole Miss, and about 5 others offered first. But they still got him on campus first. What does that tell you? I put a lot of stock into those early visits. They got him back 2 more times after that, had him here in April. I want to say April 8th was his most recent trip. So it's been a few months. And then he put out a top 7 in June. Arkansas, of course, one of those, along with, you've got it written down here, Mr. Biddy, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Oregon, Michigan State, Louisville, and Purdue. So the thing you notice about that group, no Mizzou in there. So once that happened, no Missouri in the top 7. A few weeks goes by. He says he's going to announce on September something. And I'm going, man, Arkansas may be the pick here, Mm-hmm. And sure enough, Jimmy Smith, man, one of the best I've ever seen at Arkansas, frankly. And, he just goes out of state and continues to get 4 stars. We've seen it with A.J. Green out of Oklahoma, Isaiah. Augustus, I guess we're going with, Florida. R-Dub out of Georgia. You know me. I think Jaden Ball out of Georgia is another 4. And then, of course, got Braylon Russell to stay at home. Now you go get Jamarian Parker for next year's class. He's killing it. Jimmy Smith, got to be one of the best I've seen here. Really impressed by him.
Yep. Jamarian Parker, 6 foot, 185, Cardinal Ritter prep, college prep, as you mentioned, out of St. Louis, Missouri. Other offers include Colorado, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Oregon, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas A&M, so on and so forth. Pretty nice offer list. 24/7 Sports, 4-star, number 279 overall prospect in the country. So a nice get for the class of 2025. Danny, if you just want to keep it on that, I don't think we talked about Kai Greer committing in the 2024 class, have we?
Yeah, we may not have. I think they've picked up 6 in the last 5 weeks, Trey. So it kind of gets jumbled, especially with the show, your show here on Monday, and a lot of these happening on the tail end of the week. It's hard to keep up. But yeah, big time pickup there. Obviously, Arkansas already had 2 interior offensive line commits for this year's class, and Kobe Branham and Zuri Madison out of Kentucky, but kind of struck out on a few offensive tackles, didn't they? You know, they missed on Shaq McCroy. Obviously, he goes to Oregon. Still not ready to call that one completely done on Arkansas's end yet. We'll see how the fall unfolds here, but I think he's still receptive anyway to Arkansas. He missed out on Fletcher Westphal. He ended up picking Florida, which seemed to struggle last week in their opener. So
you talk about procedure penalties. Jeez.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one too, I guess. But missed on both of those guys. Lo and behold, they had an actual visit scheduled with Kai. I want to say that was the final weekend of June, the 23rd, 25th, sounds right. But he goes to Stanford. He visited A&M, and lo and behold, he picked Stanford before he ever made that trip to Arkansas. Fast forward, here we are in September now. He backed off of that Stanford commitment, obviously, with conference realignment, everything that's going on right now. You know, when you're from North Carolina, do you really want to fly all the way across the country and then every other game have to fly back across the country to travel? And I don't know. I'm not speaking for the guy. I don't know why. If that's the reason why, but boy, that'd make it really tough to recruit to Stanford right now. So got him to flip. There's one offensive tackle, and like I said, we'll see if they can flip another, man. I think it's going to take some doing, but we've seen a history. We've seen trends with Oregon losing big-time players from faraway places, which most of America is, far away from Oregon. So keep an eye on that one.
Danny, it used to be the only school that I would excuse Arkansas losing a recruit to outside of the SEC footprint is Stanford, just because it's Stanford. I get it. You say you graduated from Stanford, that's a big deal. But now with the conference realignment stuff that they're dealing with, and maybe having to go all the way across the country and whatnot.
Man, screw that.
Yeah, I think it really takes some of the shine as far as being a football player and athlete and going to one of those schools. So Danny, this week, what do we think is going to happen with recruiting visitors?
Pretty good crowd, I would say. Mostly in-state guys. It seems to be everybody's kind of being steered towards next weekend. Obviously, BYU. No officials yet that I'm aware of. They could be, they could always be working something behind the scenes for next weekend. BYU coming to town, but yeah, this weekend should be a pretty good turnout. You got a 3:00 game. I'm sure they have quite a few there, but everything I've been told so far, September 16th weekend should be the more well-attended one for September anyway.
All right, Danny, anything to add?
No, I think that's about it, man. Time always flies by when I'm on here. We could talk for another hour about the game, I'm sure, but I'll let Andrew take over.
All right, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, man.
All right, everybody. That's Danny West. Again, follow him at Danny West 24/7 on Twitter. He's the HawgSports recruiting analyst and does a great job. We're going to flip it over to Andrew Ellis now. Andrew was at the game Saturday with me and does a great job. Has been with us for over 2 years now.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going tremendous, Trey. How are you on this fine Monday?
On this fine Monday, I'm great. Don't you love working on Labor Day?
I love it. Yeah, I always think it's funny whenever everyone's talking about their plans. We'll be out there trying to find out if Brady Latham's practicing or not. That's our plan for Labor Day.
Exactly. What did you think of the game Saturday? You were there. Just your quick synopsis of how Arkansas played and the Little Rock environment and whatnot.
Yeah, I feel like it was, for the most part, as expected, all the way down to the Little Rock environment being as expected. I felt like there were no huge surprises. Little things here and there. I don't think anyone expected Jaden Johnson to look as good as he did, and certain things of that nature, to quote Sam Pittman. I was a little surprised by the O-line not getting as much of a push as everyone else was expecting, and I think we're all kind of similar in that regard, where we're not panicking, worried about the O-line, but it would have, you would have liked to see them kind of impose their will a little bit more. But I was a little surprised because I thought if they were going to struggle, it was going to be in the pass rush department. I thought they were going to have a little bit of trouble with that. I know that Western Carolina has a pretty decent pass rush, so I was kind of worried about that matchup for them, but I didn't expect Arkansas to struggle to run the ball. But as we've all kind of talked about here and there, it seemed like the plan was obviously to load the box and make KJ Jefferson beat him, and he had no problem beating them. So I just don't think there were really any huge takeaways to come away with from this game. I think that Arkansas did what they were supposed to do, and for week one, that's about all you can ask.
Yeah, expecting to see improved rushing performance. I mentioned that Missouri State game back in 2011 a lot. Arkansas had 33 carries in that game for 102 yards, just 3.1 yards per carry. And then the next week they face New Mexico State, who was basically, I guess, a step up. New Mexico State's FBS, I believe. But basically a step up, and they ran 42 times for 259 yards, 6.2 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns in that one. So I would not be surprised to see a similar outcome. What do you think?
I agree 1,000%. I think even while we were in the press box after the game, I leaned over to Curtis and I was like, I think they're going to win bigger next week. Like, I think there's a chance. Obviously, Kent State will probably look better than they did. I guess was that week 0 or week 1. They'll probably be a little bit more improved, but I don't think there's much of a difference between them and Western Carolina. And honestly, I would be interested to see what those two teams did if they played each other, because I don't think, I think we'll see throughout the year that Western Carolina is going to be an improved version of what they were the last couple of years. I like what Kerwin Bell's doing over there. I don't think this means Arkansas beat some juggernaut, but I don't think Arkansas is necessarily getting a huge step up in competition this week too. They'll definitely get that with BYU, but I think this week could look more of the same. And I agree 100% on the rushing. I'd be surprised if Arkansas didn't really get things going on the ground, especially because it'll be kind of a point of emphasis. And I would be stunned if Arkansas doesn't get back to a little bit of normal on the ground. And I think it'll be more of the same in week 2.
Did you happen to catch any of the Kent State UCF game? I mean, I know it wasn't like a premier game last Thursday, but have you looked over that at all?
I haven't got a chance to watch it yet. I was keeping up with it a little bit as it was happening, and honestly, the 56-6 score, from what I could tell, isn't even as close as it seemed. I think UCF was scoring at will when they had their first team offense in there, and John Reese Plumlee seemed like he could do whatever he wanted to do. And so like I said, we'll probably see a little bit more of an improved version of them, but I don't see a ton of reason for Arkansas to slip up here in this week 2 situation.
Andrew, you keeping? You going to wear the same socks or the same shirt? What's your?
No, I think I'm over those days.
Yeah.
I don't do stuff like that as much anymore, especially whenever you're actually working there. It'd be tough if I were trying to. Like the shorts I showed you the day that I used to wear every week. It'd be a little tough if I came to the press box in checkered shorts every week. But I don't have any superstitions like that. And honestly, I'm just content to ride it out and see what happens. And, if I feel something, if you can't force the superstitions, that's one thing you can't do.
Yeah.
So I'll just play it out, see how it goes.
Andrew and I have a lot of that stuff in common with just kind of superstitions and stuff that really, I don't know, doesn't really matter at all, but it's just something that we can't help doing. So your opinion of this team change any, Andrew? I know you with me and Curtis, we all picked 8-4. I think Danny picked 9-3. Do you have any change in opinion off of this one, or did they just kind of do what you would have expected them to have done?
I would really love to come in here and tell you that I've found all these awesome, brilliant takeaways and new opinions of this team. Really, no. I mean, I feel very similar than I did a week ago. Weirdly enough, I'm actually kind of encouraged by the offensive line, just because I think if they had come out and just not been able to handle Western Carolina's pass rush, that's a lot bigger of a concern than it would be if Western Carolina's low in the box and they weren't able to really break off any big runs. And honestly, it got better throughout the game. And if you take away the negative 19-yard snap over his head and Rockets' negative 11-yard run, it's not like they weren't able to move the ball or anything. And as soon as they started hitting some of those big pass plays, things opened up. So I think it's when you're looking at a young offensive line with 2 second-year tackles starting, I think the first thing your brain goes to is, are they going to be able to handle the big pass rushes of the SEC? We still don't know the answer to that question, but we don't see any cause for concern in that aspect right now. And so I think I'm generally pretty encouraged by everything I saw, and I'm definitely encouraged by the way the secondary performed in week one. I mean, that was unbelievable. I feel pretty good about that group if everyone's able to stay healthy, but it looks like they've got more options there. And, the guys that they got back have all just seemed to have taken a little bit of a step forward.
You know what Clay Henry used to say when you'd say something like that? If you said, if you take away the 19-yard play or something, you know what he'd say?
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, when I'm not expecting Bo Limmer to snap it over his head.
You can't take away plays,
times,
Trey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if Sam Pittman's worried about the snap, and he seems like it's not really much of an issue.
He doesn't seem too concerned about it, does he?
I'm okay to chalk up a loss of 19 to week one jitters, it being hot, whatever excuse it was he came up with.
So you think Arkansas is going to deliver a bigger beatdown this week than they did last weekend?
I don't know about bigger. I think it could look very similar. Mm-hmm. I think, because, especially with games like this, once you get to the second half, the score just becomes whatever you want the score to be. Arkansas could have scored 70 if they wanted to. They could have scored 40 if they wanted. It's like, I don't think Sam Pittman's necessarily going to be trying to beat them by 50 plus, but I saw, I think the final line ended up being around 35 for this game. It's looking like it might be higher for this Kent State game. I think it's going to be, I'm seeing 38 too. So I think it's going to be very similar. I think both of those ranges are pretty fair considering the circumstances.
I was we talked a little bit about this, but I was looking at Bet Saracen app, and they have not Arkansas, but they have Colorado at, was it -2.5? I believe it's -2.5.
I think you're right. I think it was.
What are your, you know more about like gambling stuff than I do, but like what are your thoughts on that line, and you got any other picks that you like?
Yeah, I think that line is just simply – I think because if you look at it, Colorado just came off with a huge win against TCU. Nebraska didn't look great in week one, couldn't really move the ball much. That line, you'd think most people would probably expect Colorado to be favored by more. Mm-hmm. I think that's a case of Vegas not wanting to overreact too much and not wanting to, just swing it. Because they were 21-point underdogs against TCU. If they're all of a sudden 20-point favorites against Nebraska, clearly something's not adding up. And obviously, it was a good performance, but I think that's a little bit of a respect to Matt Rule, expecting some regression to the mean for Colorado after a big week one win. And how often, I mean, Danny made a post about that today, but how often do we see the team that steals the show week one kind of slip back to normal in the coming weeks? And so I think that's a trap game if I've ever seen one. But I still kind of like Colorado in that game just because I was able to keep up with a little bit of that game. I went and watched some of it when I got back, and I was just genuinely impressed by the talent I saw on Colorado's both sides of the ball. I mean, those guys, they're definitely going to be a fun team to watch. They're pretty much must-watch television early in the year, and so I'll be keeping an eye on that one. But I think that, I think the line is probably a little bit fair just because you've got a Nebraska team that's got an experienced quarterback and a legitimate head coach, and I think they're ready to play spoiler for a situation like this.
Yeah, I really like Matt Rule. I think he can turn a program around. I don't know that he always does it in year one, but he definitely has proven he did that at Temple. He did it at Baylor, obviously, when we didn't think Baylor could ever come back. But Deion, I've always been a Deion fan growing up. I was a big primetime fan, and I'm a believer in what he's doing at Colorado too. I think he's going to win there. However, he did not do himself any favors, in my opinion, with media by just kind of coming after some guys and like, you know what I mean? Like just, I'm sure you saw the press conference, but I don't think that was a good move because the first time, something goes wrong there, they'll just be all over him because, even if it wasn't directed at them, there'll be people that, who are in the media that don't like that. But I think he's going to do well there, but I don't think that was a very good move by Deion to, kind of go after one of the reporters.
Yeah, doing the victory lap after week one is a little bit tough when you're in week one of the era. But no, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I'm also a believer in Deion. I really like what he's been doing. I just think that I think some people also think that it's going to be more of a rebuild than it was. 51 of these players are new. So it's not like he's inheriting some Colorado team where it is 10 years ago you're trying to rebuild a program. It takes you a lot longer, and it looks a lot different than it does in 2023.
Yeah, I
think that I'm not saying they're going to be competing at a national level. I think TCU is going to take a step back either way this year. So I think there was a little bit of fool's gold there as well. But I do think that Colorado, they're going to be able to kind of get this thing going quicker than some people expect. And like I said, I just think that they're good for college football. They're going to be fun to watch week in and week out. And I agree that people are going to be waiting to dunk on Deion anytime anything happens. And that's kind of what makes these things fun, are the teams that you watch, whether you're hating or you love them, like the teams that we all like, like Texas. We all tune in to watch Texas because we either love them or we hate them. We all want to see what they're going to do. And I think that Deion just adds a new layer to college football that's definitely good for the sport.
Great stuff, Andrew. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. You have a good one.
You too. All right, everybody. That's Andrew Ellis bringing it. You can always count on Andrew Ellis to bring it. You know what you can always also count on? You can always count on Ozarks Go. Ozarks Go is going to deliver great internet speed for you. They offer several tiers of speed. I've had their Gigabit service, which is fantastic. Instantaneous. I thought it was instantaneous until I got Multibit, which is the tier higher than that. It's about 2,500 megabits per second. And I'm talking, I skip through YouTube and it's just like, just starts every single time. Really fantastic. I've got my TVs hardwired in directly, so they just really zip through. Pull about 600, maybe a little bit more than that, megabits per second up and down wirelessly on this computer. So really strong internet service from Ozarks Go. Two guys came over the first time they installed, super nice guys. Two other guys came over the next time, super nice guys, very courteous, were in and out and did a great job for us. Go check them out. You can call them at 479-684-4900 or go to ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG. I've had a lot of internet service providers in my life. These are the best ones that I've had in terms of just being consistent and steady. So go check them out at ozarksgo.net/HAWG or call them at 479-684-4900. They're not going to rope you in with some low deal, like some low price, and then jack you up the next year. You're going to pay next year the same price you pay this year, okay? They're not going to try to trick you into some super low rate and then jack you up, and then when you try to call and cancel, they say, well, we're going to drop the price. We'll drop the price $30 if you stay with us. You're not going to get that. It's going to be one low price for the whole time. Local company. Go check them out at Ozarks Go. If you get Ozarks Electric, you probably can get Ozarks Go. They are expanding all over northwest Arkansas. I believe into Oklahoma. They're in Oklahoma. I think Missouri. I don't know. But you can go check it out at 479-684-4900. Anybody got any questions for me? Timothy David Long says that play you talked about when KJ just got hit and kept on with the play, that was amazing. Armstrong jumped like 50 feet in the air and got what an athlete. Arkansas's got some wide receivers. Remember, I told you Arkansas has wide receivers. Now, they're going to have to do it against some, more competitive teams coming up, but they got guys that catch the ball, flat catch the ball. How do you feel about Landon Jackson? Dude is a beast, and I think he has great potential as a linebacker. Landon Jackson. I think Landon Jackson plays defensive end, first of all. But I think Landon has so much ability, so much potential. I think he's going to be a really good player. I think the defensive line is really solid. As I mentioned, you didn't see any twists. You didn't see much stunting at all from the defensive line. You didn't see any extra pressure from the linebackers. They were just very standard, basic defense. And people, it's amazing to me. We got some great fans in Arkansas. There are a few idiots out there who don't understand, what defenses are trying to do and, what offenses are doing and stuff, and what, Arkansas's defense is doing against an offense and vice versa. And they just see that, Arkansas only had 2 sacks, but this defensive line is really solid. They did not bring very much pressure at all. Like, again, I saw 2 times where I felt like they might have blitzed. And it could have been conflated with just reading the play really well. On Arkansas's offensive line, again, I think that they should have gotten, it would have been nice to see them get a push here and there, but people acting like Arkansas's offensive line is terrible, just ridiculous. You have to understand what they were doing. Let's see how things progress. I'm not saying Arkansas is going to go undefeated or they're never going to struggle on the offensive or defensive lines throughout SEC play and stuff, but KJ Jefferson was touched twice. One guy came on a blitz. He came free. The other time, the guy came on the green dog blitz right up the middle, which is just a delayed blitz, basically, and hit KJ, and he bounced off. Other than that, they were never even near KJ Jefferson. Let's see. We're going to find some good questions here. Let's see. Justin Williams says, was talking about the concession stands, couldn't find the lines. I heard there was no beer, no water at one point. Again, I thought the fans were great. They showed up more than I expected. I think it was announced at 44,000. I don't think that was far off. I I heard some people say there was only one entrance. They had trouble with parking. I mentioned my issue I had, and that's just kind of going to be expected when you have a venue that isn't used to hosting 44,000 people, week in and week out. Fayetteville has had issues before, with concessions and stuff there. It's not like Fayetteville just runs smooth every single time. Let's see. Watched that FSU-LSU game last night. You can't close the door on LSU just because they played a tough game and lost. I mean, it definitely got away from them, but let's see. A lot of talking between, like everybody else is just commenting between each other. Kai commits to us, and they bump him down to a 3-star. That's not true. He was already a 3-star. Because we're Arkansas. I mean, like Justin, I can point to you so many prospects that Charleston Collins shot up the rankings after he committed to Arkansas. Courtney Crutchfield went up like 390 spots up to number 62 player in the country after he committed to Arkansas. I mean, there are tons of examples of players. Last year with Isaiah Augustov, he was a 3-star recruit when he committed to Arkansas and just slowly moved up the rankings after committing to Arkansas. There's plenty of instances of players that have committed to Arkansas and shot up the rankings. But every time somebody drops in the rankings, it's like, it's because it's Arkansas. I promise you, it doesn't have anything to do with it. And then, this example right here, this isn't true at all. He wasn't a 4-star before. He dropped Stanford and went to Arkansas. Oh, what happened? I didn't see. I wanted to go back and look at the Texas State game. I don't even know what happened. I might go back and look at that if Hornsby. I don't even know. I don't know what the score of the game was. Trey Knox on losing team this week. Yeah. Trey Knox didn't play very well. I didn't think I watched that game. Struggled blocking some, only had a couple catches. And then the Bell kid that left South Carolina and went to Florida State, he had a really nice game for Florida State, the tight end that left them. Not a great showing for South Carolina and the debut for Dow Loggins and Trey Knox and Shane Beamer year 2. I mean, North Carolina's got a hell of a quarterback. Rick Hogan says Florida, South Carolina, LSU all go down week 1. Yeah. I mean, those are all the teams that played Power 5 opponents also. Hey, Trey, has your take on the linebackers changed at all after week 1? I would say, Pooh-Paul's going to sit out because he had a targeting unless that gets overturned, so I felt like it was targeting. So he's going to sit out. But I feel like, to me, Jaheim Thomas showed me a lot. I think that he is a guy that you're going to be able to count on. I know Pooh-Paul will be able to do that too. I just think it's Pooh-Paul and Jaheim Thomas. And Antonio Greer, I don't even know if he played. I don't think he did, but he's been banged up. And he's done some good things too. They have to get him back in there. But I think they got 4 linebackers. And Spence looks like he's going to come on. So maybe 5. And, maybe Manny Powell will too. Talked about the field goal. I thought it was ridiculous to do that. Do I think they played safe football? I don't know about safe. I just think that they didn't show a lot, and they don't need to. They should just be able to line up and beat those guys, is what they did. Kenny Harris says it was nice seeing LSU get beat like they did, and then Brian Kelly throw his team under the bus. I didn't see the post game. Hornsby didn't play, says Will Lennox. Gotcha. Didn't play for Texas State. Man, what a dramatic difference. I mean, Jacoby came in and made some good plays for Arkansas. You kind of feel good, about Jacoby right now. I mean, I've seen him in practice, so it's not just me seeing him, run 3 plays or whatever he did. But to me, Jacoby's going to be a good player for him. Matt Harden says, do you think the O-line will improve when Latham gets back and everyone moves back to their original position? I don't think the O-line played extremely bad. Now, there were certain things that they did with some of the angles and stuff that Sam Pittman mentioned in his press conference, versus what they would do if they were head up on a guy that they got to get corrected. Some things here and there, but they also, moved Josh Braun from right guard, where he's practiced all camp, to left guard, moved to Kiss Crawford in the starting lineup, had Andrew Chamblee starting when Devon Manuel's been, the starter most of the time. Well, I guess lately it's been Chamblee because Manuel's been banged up. That's why he wasn't in there. They didn't have Latham. But, again, they protected well in the pass game. They just couldn't, overcome just them loading the box up and just, coming after the run time and time again. So I don't know that they just played awful, but, usually you'd see, you'd like to see Arkansas pop off a big run, even though they're coming after the run and focusing basically on that. But I do think the offensive line, you'll see a better performance from them this week. Yes, and you kind of made some of those points, Mark. Which SEC team should be the most concerned after week 1? I think Florida should be concerned. And a lot of that is because of all the procedure penalties you saw. I brought that up. Arkansas had 8 penalties for 86 yards or something like that, 7 penalties for 86 yards, something like that. But they were, things like a block in the back or a hit out of bounds or a targeting, personal foul, those kinds of things, which you don't want. Obviously, those are huge penalties, 10, 15-yard penalties. But what you didn't see is what you saw at Florida. 5 men in the backfield. 4th and 1 situation, got to have it, jumping off sides. 2 number 3s on the field on a special teams play. That's coaching issues, okay? That, to me, tells me that team has got some issues. They're not polished up. Arkansas is going to have procedure issues. They're going to have guys jump off sides. They're going to have 5 men in the backfield time to time. But this happened, quite a bit for Florida in the opener. But that kind of stuff happens every once in a while. But to me, that's a big measure when you're talking about penalties. Well, what kind of penalties were they? Pass interference, holding? Those happen. Those are going to get called sometimes. False start, 5 men in the backfield, those 12 men breaking the huddle, those kind of things. Those are concerns. I thought I know how to say it. Isaiah Augustive. Dustin Hoofman asked about Isaiah Augustive. Isaiah Augustive. I thought he ran really hard in the time that he got in there. Criswell played more or less this week. I think probably less to the same, something like that. Adam Hall said, I thought pass interference was smart, give 15 to save 7 points. On the pass interference, he got pushed off first and then came back and had no choice but to do pass interference. It's kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't mind maybe seeing something look at, like if it's just hand fight, like they're both hand fighting, then call both of them. But if somebody does it like blatantly first and the other guy has no choice but to make up and pass interference, then I wouldn't mind seeing that looked at a little bit differently in the future from a rules committee. Philip Patterson says, I wasn't disappointed with the O-line. You want to see them blow it wide open, but everyone knows the running game we have. Yeah. Who is your player of the game this week, in your opinion, Trey? Defense, I'll go with Jaden Johnson. He had the forced fumble. He had the interception. He lit that dude up on Nudie McLaughlin's interception return. I thought he just played a really good game all the way around. I give a nod to Hudson Clark in there also. And then on offense, player of the game goes to – I'll give it to KJ. I'll give it to KJ Jefferson. Starting off 12-12 passing, that's hard to do. I don't care who the opponent is. And you got to have more. You got your receivers have to catch the ball, obviously. Okay. Imagine how that LB found after he bounced off KJ. William Cleveland said, I think they'll get more comfortable and be able to bring subs in quicker for Kent State. Trey, your show is awesome, says Reggie Allen. I appreciate that. I thank all of you for watching the show and making it so popular and checking out our content at HawgSports, HawgSports.com. Free content, stuff you get out of press conferences, stuff you get out of news releases. We put all that stuff out there. It's on our Facebook page. You can be one of 90,000 fans to follow our Facebook page if you haven't done so already. And a lot of VIP content, insider stuff, opinion articles, op-eds, recruiting information, stuff that you're not going to get everywhere else. Inside scoop on what's going on really with the team. Those are the things that we have as our VIP subscriptions. You can sign up at HawgSports right now. Again, HawgSports.com for 50% off. This deal ends Tuesday at 11 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Again, that's HawgSports.com. 50% off. It breaks down to $1.03 a week, $4.48 a month, and billed at just $53.70 for the entire year. Go check us out, HawgSports. All right, everybody. It's the reason we do this show right here, to promote that website. So appreciate everybody. Thanks to Danny West for hopping on with us, and, of course, Andrew Ellis as well for giving his insight. And we'll be back with you guys. Oh, yeah, I wanted to mention this. The walk and talk. I was a little disappointed in my walk and talk situation because I bought this new gimbal. So it's supposed to provide image stabilization. So I've got it, and it's working fine. And I'm thinking it's working good when I'm doing it. And then after I upload it, I noticed what it's done is stabilizing everything in the background, whereas I'm just kind of walking, and it's like I'm bouncing. It's like I'm on a trampoline, or I'm floating a little bit. And it kind of made me feel a little nauseated, to be honest. So I'm ditching the gimbal for future walk and talks. I thought it would be like, smooth everything out, but I think you would probably rather see me and, not bouncing up and down, and maybe the background doing that instead. So we're going to go back to the way it was done before. I thought that would have been a nice upgrade, but sometimes, things just don't work out. So the walk and talk in the future will be like it has been. Oh, it won't be entirely because my parking, I don't have lot 44 grass no longer exists. So I guess they're filling that up with tailgaters and stuff, which is perfectly fine. I don't see any reason not to do that. But that no longer exists, so I'll have actually a different walk out of the stadium this time. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll be back with you guys Thursday for the Arkansas versus Kent State primer.